so, you know? Okay, I got it.
Are you doing it?
What if he gets what if Nate and Conor gets 3 million pay-per-views?
It's not out of the question.
It's not.
It's a stretch, but not out of the question.
It's a stretch. But if Nate can talk the right amount of shit, and people get excited about it. Honestly, right now, for Conor, what else is there that's even close?
As far as fight?
In MMA?
Well,
what else is even close?
The only argument is you can say Conor's the only draw. He can fight Billy from Afghanistan and still get 2 million pay-per-view buys.
Nate Diaz is training like a man possessed for a fight that doesn't even officially exist yet. We're talking about the White House card, the most anticipated event in combat sports history, and here's the absolutely wild part. There's no contract, no confirmed opponent, and no official announcement. But Nate, he's grinding like his life depends on it. This isn't some casual gym session we're talking about. Sources close to his camp are describing training sessions that are pushing the limits of human endurance. We're seeing relentless rounds of boxing that are sharper than anything he's shown in years, conditioning work that would break most fighters half his age, and a level of focus that's honestly shocking people who know him best. And here's what's got everyone talking. This isn't some nostalgic comeback tour where an aging fighter tries to recapture past glory. Experts who have been watching his preparation are saying this looks like a man who genuinely believes he can compete at the absolute highest level again.
I think the answer is very obvious. I think we would all rather see Conor McGregor versus Nate Diaz 3. Of course, they are 1-1. The rubber match needs to happen. And if it doesn't happen in the UFC, maybe it happens down the line when they're out the UFC and they're both in the 50s, right? That fight needs to happen at some point in a car park, in a pub, in a restaurant, or better yet, at the White House in the UFC's octagon. That would be a fight that we all want to see. And I think it kind of needs to happen. Anyway, so that's what Nate Diaz should be targeting. That's what he should be talking about. Saying, never mind Michael Chandler, man. I can't do a Nate Diaz impression, right? He should say, never mind Michael Chandler. He's lost his last few fights. We're 1-1. Let's go. Let's do it at the Oval Office, on the White House lawn, wherever the fight's going to take place, right? That's what they should be called.
But here's where Joe Rogan drops some serious reality on the situation. Yeah, Nate's in incredible shape and training like a machine, but let's be honest about what's really driving this potential return. We're talking about a massive, life-changing payday. The White House card represents the kind of financial opportunity that comes around maybe once in a fighter's entire career. And Rogan made a crucial point that everyone seems to be missing. Nate doesn't need to rely on his opponent's star power to sell this fight. The man brings his own army of devoted fans who will buy tickets and pay-per-views just to watch him step into that octagon. What makes Nate so unique, according to Rogan, is that raw, unfiltered authenticity that cuts through all the manufactured drama in modern MMA. When Nate talks, people believe him because he's never put on an act. He's the same guy whether the cameras are rolling or not. And that genuine connection with fans means that just putting his name on the White House card instantly elevates the entire event from a big fight to a cultural moment.
They're obviously not out of shape. They're both thin.
Yeah.
They look like they're fit. I see them training. I see, pictures of them with jiu-jitsu gis on and hitting the bag and shit. It's, who knows, man? I mean, it's also like they want that big payday. you know, especially now, and they should get that big payday. But goddamn, if I was the UFC,
you pay them?
Fuck yeah! I think those guys are superstars. I think the UFC doesn't know. I think one of the reasons why Nate Diaz versus Conor McGregor was so big is because people love Nate Diaz too. It's not just Conor McGregor.
No doubt.
If Conor McGregor, no disrespect to Eddie Alvarez, but when Conor McGregor fought Eddie Alvarez, the vast majority of the eyes were on Conor McGregor.
Yeah.
When Conor McGregor fights Nate Diaz, you're looking at a lot of people who love Nate Diaz.
Yeah. But how do you think that happened? Like, how do you think Nate got such that star power? You think it's like his attitude?
Fuck. He legitimately doesn't give a fuck. He smokes weed all the time.
Now here's where things get really interesting. Din Thomas just dropped some knowledge that explains why the Diaz brothers are still relevant when most fighters their age are either retired or getting demolished by younger competition. Their fighting style is basically aging-proof. While other fighters rely on explosive athleticism that fades with time, the Diaz approach is built on technique, cardio, and pure mental toughness. Think about it, speed disappears, power diminishes, reflexes slow down, but cardio. That can actually improve with age if you're dedicated enough. And technique, that's something you accumulate over decades. Thomas pointed out that this is why both Nate and Nick can still compete at elite levels when guys who were knocking people out in their 20s are now getting finished by fighters they would have dominated years earlier. The Diaz style breaks opponents mentally through relentless pressure and volume, not through athletic gifts that Father Time eventually steals. Which means we could be looking at vintage Diaz performances even at this stage of their careers.
I mean, honestly, if anybody could still fight in their old age, the way the Diaz brothers fight, their style will allow them to fight longer.
Yeah.
Because they're not like the best athletes. So they rely on skill and just
endurance.
But hold up, because Dana White just threw some cold water on everyone's excitement about actually getting this fight made. While he has nothing but respect for Nate as a fighter and recognizes his massive drawing power, Dana made it crystal clear that negotiating with Diaz is rarely straightforward. Fans think the UFC can just book whatever fight they want, but the reality behind closed doors is way more complicated. Nate has a reputation for demanding specific opponents, often ones that don't make sense from a business or rankings perspective. He'll push for legacy fights, grudge matches, or completely unexpected callouts that can stall negotiations for months. And when you're trying to build something as massive as a White House card, where every moving piece has to align perfectly, having one fighter making unconventional demands can throw the entire timeline into chaos. Dana suggested that while Nate's name adds incredible value to any card, the challenge is finding the right opponent who Nate actually wants to fight, who makes sense for the promotion, and who's available on the specific date they need.
But, you know, getting a fight done with him isn't easy as it seems. Everybody's like, well, why don't you make a fight? Well, why don't you make a fight?
Speaking of negotiations and realistic expectations, Dana recently shut down all the wild rumors about Conor McGregor versus Jorge Masvidal appearing on this White House card. He called those reports complete nonsense and pointed out that most of what circulates online about MMA is either completely fabricated or based on wishful thinking rather than actual insider information. Even his own social media feeds, which you'd expect to have legitimate scoops, show basically nothing to support these fantasy matchups that fans keep pushing. But here's the key difference. The speculation around Nate's return feels completely different. His visible training, his loyal fanbase that's been begging for his comeback, and his history of delivering in high-pressure situations gives real substance to these discussions. Unlike the McGregor-Masvidal rumors that seem to be based on nothing but fan hopes, Nate's potential return has all the ingredients of something that could actually happen. And that's what makes this situation so compelling for both hardcore fans and casual viewers who might tune in just to see what all the fuss is about.
You've heard the new talk is that Conor McGregor, Jorge Masvidal could be a potential.
Oh, no, I didn't.
Michael Masvidal just came out and said what everyone's been thinking. If Nate Callouts is seriously considering a return, there's only one fight that makes sense. Conor Helwani, the Trilogy. These two legends are tied at 1 win apiece, which means we've got the ultimate rubber match sitting right there waiting to be made. Diaz wasn't just talking about this as another big fight. He was describing it as the kind of cultural moment that transcends sports. He even joked about them fighting on the White House lawn, but honestly, that's not even that crazy when you consider the magnitude of what this matchup represents. This isn't just settling a score between two fighters, it's completing one of the most compelling rivalries in combat sports history. Bisping believes this is exactly the type of high-profile clash that Nate should be targeting, the one fight that would set the entire MMA world on fire and create the kind of buzz we haven't seen since their last encounter. If this fight actually happens, it won't just be remembered as another main event. It'll be a defining moment that fans will be talking about for decades.
The biggest thing on social media now, everyone's talking, that Chandler's out and Masvidal's in, and it's Conor and Masvidal.
You know what's funny? So in my algorithm on Instagram, I have nothing MMA.
Right?
Literally nothing MMA pops up.
Oh, mine's
my
politics.
algorithm.
That's my...
Yeah, mine's definitely, there's some politics, but yeah. I don't listen to any of the goofy
No.
No.
Is that considered goofy?
That's goofy shit. Yeah. The MMA world, I don't listen to any of that. So literally none of that is on my algorithm. People say, "Oh, did you hear?"
You ever heard? He's like, I believe you. He's not heard about that. It's funny. You type in one of their names too, and that's all people seem to be talking
Literally,
about.
Almost everything you see on the internet about our sport is wrong.
It's not real.
It's all wrong. Yeah.
But here's where Bisping's analysis gets even more interesting. He zoomed out to look at the bigger picture and made a compelling case for why this trilogy makes perfect sense for both fighters. For Nate, it's the biggest possible fight he can take, guaranteed to generate massive pay-per-view numbers and cement his legacy regardless of the outcome. For Conor, even though he technically doesn't need another fight from a financial standpoint, that competitive drive never really dies in true champions. The opportunity to definitively settle this rivalry on the biggest stage possible, potentially as part of a historic White House card, might be too tempting to pass up. Bisping argued that placing this fight on such a prestigious card would elevate not just the bout itself, but the entire event, creating an unprecedented level of anticipation. And when you consider the potential for other major matchups to fill out the rest of the card, we could be looking at the most stacked event in UFC history. The kind of night where every fight feels like a main event.
I think the answer is very obvious. I think we would all rather see Conor McGregor versus Nate Diaz 3. Of course, they are 1-1. The rubber match needs to happen. And if it doesn't happen in the UFC, maybe it happens down the line when they're out the UFC and they're both in the 50s, right? That fight needs to happen at some point in a car park, in a pub, in a restaurant, or better yet, at the White House in the UFC's octagon. That would be a fight that we all want to see, and I think it kind of needs to happen. Anyway, so that's what Nate Diaz should be targeting. That's what he should be talking about. Saying, never mind Michael Chandler, man. I can't do a Nate Diaz impression, right? He should say, never mind Michael Chandler. He's lost his last few fights. We're 1-1. Let's go. Let's do it at the Oval Office, on the White House lawn, wherever the fight's going to take.
Now here's where an unnamed MMA insider brought up a crucial point that everyone seems to be overlooking. For a Diaz-McGregor trilogy to generate the kind of universal excitement it deserves, Nate probably needs to return to the octagon first and make a statement. The guru argued that Nate needs to remind everyone why he's elite by scoring a major victory in the welterweight division before stepping into a trilogy bout with Conor. Only then would the fight capture the kind of attention necessary to headline something as monumental as a White House card. While hardcore fans are debating other potential opponents like Masvidal or even some unexpected callouts, influential voices like Ariel Helwani are quietly leaning toward Diaz versus McGregor as the next must-see bout. But the timing has to be perfect. If Nate comes back and looks rusty or gets dominated, it kills all the momentum for the trilogy. However, if he returns and delivers a vintage performance that reminds everyone why he's special, then the McGregor fight becomes not just a big payday, but a legitimate super fight between two legends at the top of their games.
If Nate Diaz was to come back. But if he was, and if Conor McGregor does actually make it back, I think that's the fight to make all day long. The 1-on-1, there were some of the biggest fights in UFC history. Nate Diaz versus Conor McGregor at the White House would be absolutely insane. It probably will have Tom Aspinall versus John Jones in the main event. It probably will have Conor McGregor versus someone, Michael Chandler or Nate Diaz, in the co-main event. So that just kind of sets the tone for how big that card would be. What do you think? Do you think Conor McGregor will actually make it back? Of course, he hasn't fought since 2021, right? It's going to be 5 years since he last fought. I, for one, fair play to the guy. Fair play, man. Respect. He doesn't need to do this. He doesn't need to come back. He's got lots of other avenues and ways to make money. But fighting is something that never leaves you, okay? It's a part of who you are. It's in your DNA. It's part of your soul. And he wants to come back and he wants to get his hands raised in victory. Of course, he wants to come back and be a part.
Then Ben Askren completely flipped the script with one of the most controversial takes we've heard about Nate Diaz in years. Askren boldly claimed that despite all the hype and fanfare, Nate is really just an average fighter who's mastered the art of self-promotion. To support his argument, he pointed directly to Diaz's record, both in the UFC and other organizations, suggesting that the numbers don't match the reputation. Askren essentially argued that Nate's widespread appeal is more about marketing and personality than consistent high-level results inside the octagon. Now, Askren knew this take would ignite a firestorm across social media, and he was absolutely right. Whether you agree with him or think he's completely wrong, this perspective adds another fascinating layer to any potential White House showdown. Is Nate a legitimate elite fighter who deserves top billing on the biggest card of the year? Or is he a master promoter who's convinced everyone he's better than his record suggests? The answer to that question might determine not just who he fights next, but how much he gets paid for it.
Because that's not the fight I want to see next, okay? If Nate Diaz comes back and gets a big win over someone in the welterweight division, okay? And he does it impressively, and then the McGregor fight happens, that's when I'm interested. But right now, I feel like the hardcore fans are kind of in mutual agreement that it's Masvidal or Gaethje. To us, it's kind of Masvidal or Gaethje, and for Chael Sonnen and Ariel Helwani to both say that they think Nate Diaz Trilogy should be next is strange to me. Very strange to me, because I would love to see either Gaethje or Masvidal. I feel like everyone's in agreement here. We've seen that Donald Cerrone has been beaten by Conor McGregor in his return at UFC.
So who else might actually make it onto this legendary White House card? Chael Sonnen broke down the potential lineup with his usual analytical precision, starting with Michael Chandler. Sonnen is confident that Chandler will absolutely be featured, with several intriguing possibilities on the table. We could see him clash with Beneil Darius, run back the Dan Hooker fight that delivered fireworks the first time, or even compete for the BMF title if the timeline works out. But Chandler is just the beginning. Sonnen specifically highlighted Ilia Topuria as a major international draw who could bring global attention to the event. The Georgian-Spanish fighter has that rare combination of elite skills and mainstream appeal that makes him perfect for a card of this magnitude. And then there's Alex Pereira, who, according to Sonnen's sources, is currently unbooked and would almost certainly be added to create even more star power. The combination of these names wouldn't just ensure domestic success. It would make this event a worldwide phenomenon that transcends typical MMA audiences and reaches mainstream sports fans who might not normally watch fights.
So listen, Nate Diaz, he is the most puzzling. He's not. I don't even think he's that good. I'll go get his record if you want me to. But he has convinced people he is good at fighting somehow, some way.
He's pretty good.
I'm gonna go get his damn record, Daniel. It's not.
But he won the Ultimate Fighter. He won the Ultimate Fighter. I'm saying he was good for the time that he was fighting.
No, he wasn't. He was average.
He was. Yeah. Okay. I'm just.
Okay.
Trying
I'm gonna go get the record. I'm gonna go get the record. They're gonna yell at me. I know this. Okay. Let's see. Well, his record is 21-13.
Oh my God. Really?
Yes, that's not that great.
Okay, I take it back. I'm taking it back.
And he was going into the UFC, he was, I think it was 5-1. So within the UFC, he was 16-12.
That's not good.
That's not very good.
That's not good. There's really no way to twist that into good.
Yeah. So but you know, his personality, that's another one's like, how did his personality catch on? And he says funny things sometimes. He's a little bit different. He, you know, I don't know. Yeah. And listen, if you post this clip, please don't post this clip because the Diaz.
Wrapping up his predictions for this historic card, Sonnen made a definitive call that could change everything. He's pushing for both Ilia Topuria and Alex Pereira to be featured on the same lineup, believing that pairing these two explosive stars would generate seismic levels of excitement and become the biggest news story from the entire event. In Sonnen's view, this kind of strategic booking would give fans a clear preview of the high-stakes, action-packed matchups they could expect from such an unprecedented event. He hinted that with names of this caliber on the card, we're not just looking at another big UFC event, we're potentially witnessing one of the most talked-about and memorable spectacles in recent combat sports history. The kind of night where every fight delivers, every moment feels historic, and the entire combat sports landscape shifts based on what happens inside that octagon.
I'm telling you, the most confident guy that I believe is going to fight is Michael Chandler. Who's he going to fight? I think that Benoit Saint Denis is possible. I think that a rematch with Dan Hooker is possible. I think there's a chance of a quick turnaround with the BMF, but I don't know how bullish I am just because that turnaround would be so quick. But I am very confident that Chandler's going to be on there. I will tell you, Alex Pereira, if you want to know the sport's biggest stars, you've got Alex Pereira and Sean O'Malley that have been battling for the top spot for 2 years now. But from what we're told, Ilia Topuria is a massive star, particularly internationally. So now that you've got the return of Ilia Topuria, it would seem as though you would use your big star over there. It would also seem with Alex Pereira, since he's not booked, that he would.
But Demetrius Johnson sees an even more intriguing possibility involving Islam Makhachev. Mighty Mouse believes Islam has a perfect opportunity to cement his place in history by taking on Ilia Topuria at the White House card, then following his mentor Khabib's example by retiring at the absolute peak of his career. Johnson sees Islam as a dominant force fully capable of beating Topuria decisively, turning that high-stakes matchup into a career-defining finale that would cement his legacy in the most stylish way possible. Think about the poetry of that scenario. Islam completes his dominance by conquering another division, proves he's the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world, then walks away on top just like Khabib did. For fans, this represents the kind of high-stakes showdown that doesn't just promise fireworks. It guarantees a historic finish that would be remembered as one of the greatest performances in UFC history. The student following the master's blueprint to perfection.
I do think you're going to get Ilia and you're going to get Pereira on the same card. I think that's going to be exciting. I think that's going to be the news that comes out of this meeting.
And then there's Sean O'Malley, who's making his own play for a spot on this illustrious White House card. Sugar Sean isn't holding back about what he sees as the fight that would make the biggest impact. While he acknowledges that Merab Dvalishvili deserves a title shot based on merit and his impressive winning streak, O'Malley insists that a White House showdown with Petr Yan would create the most buzz and excitement. He's framing it as the ultimate high-stakes American clash, a fight that would send shockwaves through the fanbase while giving him an unparalleled opportunity to represent his country on the sport's biggest stage. For O'Malley, this isn't just another fight on the schedule. It's the kind of career-defining moment that champions dream about. The type of event that could solidify his legacy forever and prove he belongs among the elite fighters of his generation. With his striking skills and Yan's technical brilliance, we'd be looking at a masterclass in mixed martial arts on the most prestigious stage possible.
I didn't think Islam was going to be able to, I didn't think Islam is small for 170. I've seen him in person. I've trained with him. He's a big fucking dude. And who would Islam fight next at 170? You know what? I think Islam is destined for, he should fight Ilia Topuria at the White House. If he beats Ilia Topuria, he retires. Islam has plenty of money, right? Go out on your shield like Khabib did. A lot of people in MMA don't want to see that, but in mixed martial arts, us athletes, we stay too long at the party. There's no reason for an athlete to continue to come into the head and all that stuff. If I was him, fight Ilia Topuria at the White House, you beat Ilia Topuria, walk away. I'm sure he made another one. That shit probably goes as far as fucking Russia, so there's no point for him to keep on fighting.
So here's where we stand with this potential White House card. We've got Nate Diaz training like a man possessed for a fight that doesn't officially exist yet. We've got potential matchups involving some of the biggest names in the sport. And we've got everyone from Joe Rogan to Michael Bisping to Dana White weighing in on what could become the most significant event in combat sports history. But here's the real question that's driving all this speculation. Can they actually pull it off? Can they navigate all the contract negotiations, scheduling conflicts, and ego clashes to create the kind of card that lives up to the hype? And if Nate Diaz does get his spot on this historic event, will he prove the doubters wrong and remind everyone why he's one of the most compelling fighters of his generation? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think this White House card actually happens? And if so, who do you want to see Nate fight? If this breakdown helped you understand what's really going on behind the scenes, smash that like button, subscribe for more insider MMA analysis, and hit the notification bell because this story is just getting started. I'll see you in the next one.